All right, well, I'm going to bring up our next speaker here and tell you a little bit about Ronnie Moas. So what I was talking to him right before I walked on today, and he said the biggest thing, and this guy is genuinely a rocket scientist, rock star sort of guy, and I'll tell you more about his background in a moment, but what he's most proud of right now is an organization he's been working with called Food for the Poor, which has raised over $1 billion in humanitarian aid, and it's one of the things he's going to talk about, which is cryptocurrency and income inequality. So listen to this background, though. He's the founder of Standpoint Research, top-breaking stock picker from 2008 through 2017. He's had over 100 television, newspaper, radio, and magazine interviews since 2014. And right now, his daily notes and 50 to 75 stock recommendations annually, and he covers crypto. Now, he's got an MBA from City University of New York and has authored more than 1,000 research reports during his career. And he started Standpoint Research in 2004 after spending 5 years developing his 155 variable computer model. So clearly, this guy understands data and research. But as he said earlier, what he's most proud of, what he's dedicated his life to right now is actually making a difference and using cryptocurrency to make a difference in the world. So if that's something you're interested in, you're going to love Ronnie. So you ready to rock and roll, my friend? Take it away. Let's give him a big round of applause.
Thank you for showing up. I just have to explain that I was in the hospital on the 8th of February. I thought that I had a stroke. It turns out that it was Bell's palsy. The consensus amongst the doctors is that I have an 80 to 90% chance to recover completely within 6 weeks. The reason I'm mentioning this is I have paralysis on the right side of my face, and it'll be a little bit difficult for me to talk. So I just ask for your undivided attention and not to talk over me. Thank you. Again, thank you for showing up at the conference. A couple of minutes about myself. I was born in New York. I moved to Miami Beach 8 years ago. A lot of people ask me where my accent is from. I lived in Israel for 10 years when I was growing up. I served in the Israeli army as well. I have a master's degree in finance from Baruch College in New York, and I have 4 websites. I've also visited more than 70 countries around the world, and I have a very large music collection. I started Standpoint Research 14 years ago. I put out daily notes via email and dozens of stock recommendations during the course of the year. The ideas are generated by a 155 variable computer model that took me 5 years to develop back in the 1990s. Once I get an idea off the computer model, I apply heavy fundamental and subjective overlays before going out with an actual recommendation. The recommendations usually have 20, 30, 40-page reports attached to them. So I am not giving you a recommendation just because it scored well on my computer model. You can see the entire computer model on my website. This is just a cropped photo that you're looking at right now. I've received many awards over the last 10 years. I recently received recognition as the number 5 ranking for my performance in 2017. TipRanks also has me with a top 20 ranking for my performance over the last 10 years, and that is compared with more than 4,700 analysts. Every one of my 600 recommendations during the last 10 years was time-stamped by at least 4 different news wires, including Bloomberg, Dow Jones, and Yahoo Finance. A week does not go by that I am not asked to be a headline speaker at a conference. I only have one condition when someone asks me to speak at their conference. I don't ask for airfare, I don't ask for payment, I don't ask for a hotel room. If they let me speak about this charity for 10 minutes, I show up. If they don't let me speak about the charity, I don't show up. Food for the Food for the Poor is a magnificent organization that was established in 1982. Last year, we distributed $1 billion in humanitarian aid to 18 Latin American and Caribbean countries. The administrative expenses were less than 5%. After the hurricane that hit Puerto Rico a few months ago, we added Puerto Rico to the list of countries and territories that we support. I have spent a lot of time with this organization at their headquarters in Haiti and at their headquarters a few minutes away from where I live in Miami Beach. They have 300 people at their headquarters in Coconut Creek, and anybody that goes to visit that headquarters will never be the same after they see what I saw on my first visit there in 2016. Last year, we distributed more than $1 billion in humanitarian aid. The main recipients were Haiti, $366 million, Guatemala, $261 million. The other large beneficiaries were the Dominican Republic, El Salvador, Honduras, Jamaica, and Nicaragua. We do not give out money. Everything is food, medicine, clothing, construction materials. All we need is cash donations to get these 3,660 container loads of humanitarian aid to the 18 countries that we operate in. We get between $3,000 and $4,000 of container loads, between 3,000 and 4,000 container loads of humanitarian aid every year, and all we need is a little bit of money to get the container loads to where they need to go. I have given so much of my time and money to this charity that the executive director of the charity took me with him to Haiti back in March. What you see in the lower left-hand corner is the way hundreds of millions of people are living right now around the world. They sleep side by side on the street, 100-degree temperatures, sleeping in their own urine with rats and roaches. These are the conditions that people are living in. This is the inside of a house for 6 people. There's nothing else there. These are 2 grandparents raising their 4 grandchildren in a 200-square-foot mud shack. The only reason their grandchildren have a nice change of clothing on right now is because they go to our school. That's the only change of clothing that they have. When there was a hurricane that was supposed to hit Miami Beach where I live a year ago. Instead, as usual, Haiti took the hit and it devastated the country that had still not recovered from the earthquake 8 years ago. Within 90 days, this charity built 160 double-unit concrete homes and took 1,000 people off the street. 400-square-foot double-unit concrete homes, 160 homes. It cost $1.2 million. We took 1,000 people off the street with that money. A few minutes from where I live in Miami Beach, there are pigs, P-I-G-S, pigs, living in $6 million homes with $3 million boats parked outside their homes because their homes are not suitable to entertain their guests. And guess what? They don't use the boats that they bought either. That's $9 million. I take 7,000 people off the street with that money. There is no way on earth to justify the way people spend money on themselves for things that they don't need. Is the comfort of one person more important than the lives of 7,000 people? We have enough in this world to satisfy everyone's needs, but not everyone's greed. And because there are people spending money on themselves on things that they don't need, we have 1 billion people living in poverty right now. We don't just build houses for these people. We build the houses next to the water. We teach them how to fish, and these are our boats. We also put their houses next to farmland and teach them how to farm and grow fruits and vegetables. They follow our instructions at these villages that we set up, and within a few months, they're generating enough fruit, vegetables, and fish to live off of, and there was something left over so that they could sell it in the market and come up with a little bit more revenue for their other living expenses. This is the soup kitchen I was on in Haiti. This is how people start their day. They wait 90 minutes for a little bit of rice and beans so that their children will not starve to death. And they come back to this line twice a day, every day. We distributed 400 million meals last year. People will spend $150 on a dinner with their girlfriend in a restaurant, and they will not think twice about it. $150 buys 600 pounds of rice and beans and feeds 3 starving children for an entire year. Last year, 1 million children starved to death, and nobody speaks about them. We live in a country where people are more passionate about the Dallas Cowboys than they are about people that are starving to death, and we should be ashamed of ourselves. This woman was on the street with 5 children of hers. This might be the only time you will ever see her 5 children smiling. They did not deserve to live on the street when we found them there. $7,200, we took them off the street, double unit, 400 square foot, hurricane-proof, concrete home, $1,200 a person. They're not on the street anymore. I am a year or 2 away from being able to completely fund out of my own pocket a 9-structure, 5-star orphanage in Jamaica. And it's not even going to cost me $1 million. And the $1 million is going to cover my overhead expenses for 10 years. That includes a library, a greenhouse, administrative office, dormitories, a playroom, a classroom, a kitchen, a health clinic, and a church. $1 million, 100 kids are going to be taken off the street from the time they're in kindergarten until the time they go to high school. Bishop Auguste Beauvoir manages our headquarters in Haiti. There's 200 people there. Angel Aloma in the middle is the executive director of the US operations. Last year, we gave Haiti more than $300 million in humanitarian aid. We have 4,500 beneficiaries there. Every single one of them is vetted. On average, each beneficiary gets $75,000 in aid from us. Every old age home, every hospital, every orphanage, every school, every farm, every fishing village gets assistance from us. We don't give anyone everything that they need because then they will become dependent on us, but we give everybody something. This is the reception that I got when I visited one of our schools. 100 kids were there to greet me, singing and dancing and telling me how much they appreciate what we did for them. These kids are going home tonight. There's not going to be dinner waiting on the table for them. They live in one of the poorest slums in the world. Their parents are living on less than $3 a day. If you see these children walking around naked on the street, it's because they have one change of clothing and their parents are probably washing their clothes at that particular time. Now, before I get into the cryptocurrency that you came to hear about, everybody got a sheet of paper when you came in, and I'm asking from the bottom of my heart that you leave a donation for this charity. And please don't throw us any bones. We don't need any bones from people. We need to put rice and beans in these people's stomachs. We need to build hospitals, orphanages, old age homes, farms, and fishing villages. It easily could have been you people that were in their place today. We don't get to choose our parents. And you should be treating these people exactly the way you would want to be treated had the tables been turned. Now, to get to the Bitcoin part of my presentation, we have $200 trillion right now tied up in cash, stocks, bonds, and gold around the world, and all 4 of them are overvalued. I don't know anybody under age 40 that is even looking in the direction of either of those 4 options right now. If 2% of the $200 trillion that is right now in cash, stocks, bonds, and gold ends up in cryptocurrency, you're looking at a $4 trillion valuation, 8 times where we are today. If Bitcoin holds on to its current market share, the price will be $88,000, and that is my target looking out 3 years. My target for the end of this year is $28,000. A few weeks ago, Bitcoin, for a brief period of time, became the 19th most valuable currency in the world out of 193 currencies. If the bulls on Bitcoin are correct, this will become the most valuable currency in the world within 10 years, and the price will be $300,000. It will then have the same valuation as the Chinese currency and coincidentally gold, which has approximately the same valuation. Some people say, how can I value Bitcoin the same way I'm valuing gold? And it's very simple. I don't know how much gold there is in the ground. I know how much Bitcoin there is, and I also know that in a couple of years, there will be hundreds of millions of people around the world trying to get their hands on a few million Bitcoin. And this mind-boggling supply-demand imbalance is what will probably drive the price of this deep into the six figures. A lot of people missed out on Amazon 20 years ago. This is your second shot. And if you decide to stay on the sidelines, you have nobody to blame but yourselves 20 years from now. Because this is what the cryptocurrency chart may look like 20 years from now. The Bitcoin chart may look the same way as well. And we're on the far left end of this chart right now. We're just getting started. Everybody remembers what Buster Douglas did to Mike Tyson. You remember what Amazon did to the shopping malls, what iPhone did to BlackBerry, what Facebook did to MySpace, and what Uber is doing to the yellow taxi drivers right now. There is no guarantee that Bitcoin will remain at the top of the mountain. It can go to zero tomorrow. It's a currency. It will sink or swim based on consumer confidence. If Coinbase gets hacked tomorrow, Bitcoin will be trading at $5,000 the next day. So you don't want to put all of your eggs in one basket. You have to be diversified with your cryptocurrency portfolio. The problem with that is when you diversify away from Bitcoin, the lower down you go on CoinMarketCap, the more risk you're taking. Not only do you want to be diversified across many currencies, but you have to unfortunately be diversified across a half a dozen different exchanges. The consensus is that one of the major exchanges will get hacked. And if all of your money is in that exchange, you're in trouble. If you have your money spread out across 5 different exchanges and one of them gets hacked, you only lost 20% of your money. And that's okay, because if the bulls are right on this, you're going to make hundreds of percent on the other 4 accounts that were not hacked. I can take what I learned in the 20 years in the stock market and easily apply that to what's going on right now. I'm seeing the same thing right now that I saw 20 years ago in the dot-com bubble. And just like the NASDAQ sent you clear signals 20 years ago on which names you wanted to have in your portfolio, CoinMarketCap is sending you those same signals right now. It's telling you that the 4 or 5 names that are going to be here 10 years from now are staring you right in front of the face, and they are in the top 20 right now. So do not ignore the signals that the market is sending you. You're not smarter than the market, and if you try to look for these names outside the top 100 or outside the top 500, you have nobody but yourself to blame if you get burned. A lot of people ask me about the futures market. I don't pay any attention to it any more than I pay attention to the people that tried to short Amazon the last 15 years. They got their heads handed to them on a plate. The stock went from $28 to $1,400. And that's probably what you're going to see happen in crypto over the next 10 years. There will be some volatility because of the people in New York and Chicago, and you have to take advantage of that. It happened 10 days ago, and anybody that follows me on Twitter knows that I bought at 8,400, I bought at 7,700, and I bought at 7,200. So you have to take advantage of the volatility. If you like a name and it goes on sale and you have conviction in it, you add to your position. In my opinion, we are very close to having a watershed moment in this industry that is going to send Bitcoin and the coin market cap where I think it's going in the next year or two. And it will probably come from a batch of ETFs that hit Wall Street that will allow the average person to shift part of their portfolio into crypto without worrying about an exchange getting hacked, without having to try and figure out how to deal with a Trezor device. The watershed moment that I'm looking for in the next year is going to be similar to what you saw with the Netscape browser 22 years ago. We went from 1 million users on the internet to 10 million. Then the Netscape browser came out, and we went to 1 billion users overnight. That red circle in the lower left is where we are right now in crypto, and that is where we are on the Netscape chart 20 years ago. We're in the second inning of a 9-inning ball game right now. If you're going to try and pick a flower out of the weeds, you are on your own. You're not going to get that from me. That is not part of my service. I focus exclusively on cryptocurrency recommendations that are in the top 50. Sometimes I will go down to the top 100. When you are thinking about an entry point with Bitcoin, you can get in now when there is risk, uncertainty, and obstacles in front of you, and you can buy a Bitcoin for $10,800. There is a lot of risk right now, but the upside is 10 or 20 times from the current price. If you want to wait until all of the obstacles and uncertainty is removed, it's going to cost you triple or quadruple to buy a ticket into this arena. You won't have any risk, but you will not have the upside either. And that's the same dilemma that biotech investors have when they have to decide between going into a biotech name that is in phase 1 versus a name that is in phase 2 or phase 3. It only costs $100,000 to pull off a scam in this industry, unfortunately. You need $25,000 for a white paper. You need $25,000 for a website. You need to pay someone under the table $25,000 to sign off on your white paper. And then you need someone to speak on behalf of the company to the public who can lie to your face. That's all you need. And if you do that, you have a few $1 million in your bank account a few days later. 90% of the 1,000 names on CoinMarketCap are low quality, risky, garbage, pump and dump, scam operations. A few years ago, I would tell my clients you can expect 10 to 15% returns annually in the stock market, and they would kiss my feet. Today, I promise people 100% upside, and they say that's not enough for me. I want you to give me an ICO that's going to triple tomorrow. There are no shortage of headlines coming out. I disregard all of them. All it is noise. Every day there are dozens of headlines, and many of them are scary on the surface, but I am not paying attention to any of them. This is a supply-demand imbalance unlike anything I've ever seen in my life, and there's going to be hundreds of millions of people trying to get their hands on a few million Bitcoin a couple of years ago, and that is the only thing I'm focused on right now. This is all noise that scared people out of an opportunity of a lifetime a couple of weeks ago when these headlines came out, and we jumped already 75% since the low point of $6,000. I want to close my presentation going back to what I started with. I am nauseated and sick to my stomach by some of the things I see in this country. I've been in 75 countries around the world. I've been in 38 of the states in this country. When I went to junior high school, they taught me that slavery was abolished in this country in 1863, I think was the date. What nobody talks about is that after slavery was abolished, we sent publicly traded companies like Starbucks and Freeport-McMoRan to Africa, and we raped an entire continent. Everything that is in their continent has been stripped out of the ground. Coffee, tea, diamonds, gold, crude oil. And that is why we have a situation today where the top 1% has more wealth, 100 times more wealth, than the bottom 50% of the world population. And that is why millionaire and billionaire shareholders of publicly traded companies that are raping Africa right now and have been doing so for decades, they are sitting in their yachts and on their mansions and on their yachts, while the people in Africa are living on $3 a day. You have a way to level the playing field by donating to a charity like the one I'm supporting. Nobody deserves to be living on less than $3 a day, while others are sipping champagne and eating caviar on their yachts. Enough is enough already. Okay.
One for you, Ronnie, if that's all right. He says, one question, which is, what are the key signals you look for when it, I guess, comes to valuing valuing an investment?
Oh, well, when I choose stock recommendations, it's driven by a 155 variable computer model that took me 5 years to develop. Once I get the idea, I apply heavy fundamental and subjective overlays, and I'll put out a 20, 30, 40-page report. You can see a sample on my website. With cryptocurrency, it's a lot more difficult. I understand how to value Bitcoin. Once you get past Bitcoin, it's very, very difficult to figure out what's going on. All of these names have run up purely on speculative value alone. And in the next 6, 12, 18 months, if these names don't show a utility value that matches the speculative value that is currently reflected in the coin prices, they will crash. And you are playing with fire if you go outside the top 20.
There we go. Very good. So they can learn more and visit your website at Standpoint Research.
Thank you so much.
Right? Great job. Let's give him another hand. That was awesome. Very nice. You're doing good stuff, man. All right. So I've got two things. There's a guy who knows how to make money and is giving back at the same time, which is what the game's all about. Right on.